calling Robbie.
All right, Rob.
We're dancing, and we're dancing. Tommy's doing the lawnmower.
Hello?
All
Hello,
right.
is this Robbie?
Yes, it is.
Robbie, Outsider Tackle Box radio show. My name is Paul. We have Tommy in the studio with me.
Hey, what's going on, Robbie? How you doing, bud?
Real good. How you guys been?
I'm awake. Sitting
He's
next
here.
to this guy.
He's
Not
here,
really.
and he's festive. He's wearing a antler hat, and he looks great. But welcome to the show. Thanks for being on. And the idea.
I'm like a big fat reindeer is what he's trying to get at, but he was trying to be
I
nice.
was trying to give him a visual of what you look like.
I think I pretty much
Oh,
handled it.
just like the red nose, huh?
Minus the red nose, just big fat reindeer. I'm the reindeer that Santa won't use.
So the idea behind the show, the radio show and podcast, is to spread happiness to the world through the joys of fishing, and we feel like the fish photo just does just that. And you were part of a posting on our Outsider Tackle Box fishing group. I'm an Outsider fishing group, and it was a Throwback Thursday. And you sent in a photo of you about 20 years ago? You had mentioned.
Pretty close. It was about 1982.
Oh, so
Wow.
that's longer than 20 years ago.
Good
Yeah,
math.
it was longer than that.
I was about the size of one of those fish. I was
Nice.
tiny.
So we want to hear about the fish photo, whatever you can remember. But usually, what we ask from our callers is to tell us where they caught the fish, the bait they were using, and the size of the fish. If you had a way to.
But he doesn't need to go back in time and remember each size of each fish. So
Yeah, that's what we're
We're
trying
just-
to explain to him, Tommy. Thanks
Okay.
for repeating what I was just saying.
well,
He
I-
often does
Way
that.
too many to even begin that.
Tommy often does that. I'll give direction, and he will repeat the direction that I just gave,
with all due
which
respect,
is important because sometimes people,
Well-
maybe they didn't hear it.
With all due respect, it just sounds better coming from me.
Okay,
Like you're like, we should do that, and I'm like, nah, we should do this, and you're like, I just said that. And I'm like, I know, but it sounds better.
sometimes people take their ideas from somebody, and you might try to make the idea yours. I understand it. That's a good idea, Paul.
Of course,
and
there's
you
always
just-
someone to steal it, though.
Yeah. I just sit there and I go, yep, that was my idea.
So let's get back to Robbie because
There
it's
goes your
his.
thunder.
Yeah.
It's his podcast, and we want to hear the fish story.
All right. So where
Okay,
where
well,
are we at?
originally I'm from Texas. I live in West Texas.
Okay.
But I have a sister that lived up in Plentywood, Montana, and she was moving from one house to another, needed some help. So I flew up there, and in the process of helping my brother-in-law move from one house to another, my brother-in-law, knowing that I love fishing, I always went bass and catfishing down here in the rivers and lakes here in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and he asked me, "Have you ever caught any walleye or northern pike or trout?" And I said, "No, I haven't. Never have. The only time I've ever seen them was on the In Fisherman on TV back then."
Yep.
So he said, "Well, we have a fishing trip planned, him and a friend of his, up in Canada." And he goes, "Would you like to come with us?" And I said, "Yeah, why not? Shoot, I'd like to catch something like that."
Not only are you
So it
catching
was
something
on.
that you haven't caught before, you're catching it in a whole other country. That's awesome.
Right, I had never been to Canada before, so that was a whole nother
Yeah.
adventure there for me.
Exactly.
So we ended up going to Lake Namiba in the province of Saskatchewan.
That sounds fun.
And we got there. Oh, prior to that, of course, you had one of those, I guess, a man night where the guys got together and went to a garage and started getting all the equipment and gear together and get it ready for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they introduced me to these two small aluminum V-bottom boats that
Okay.
they were rigging up some kind of contraption on the bottom of them with wheelbarrow tires on it.
Okay.
A little dolly cart,
Mhm.
and I didn't quite understand what they were doing or why it was that. They kept saying, "Well, we're going to be portaging. We're going to portage with it." Well, I had no idea what that was. Being from
I don't know what
Texas.
that is either. What is portaging?
So it's apparently it's French for crossing. So I thought, okay, well, it didn't comprehend in me. So we had a great big V-bottom boat, and we pulled these two small little boats behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to the lake over there. It was a pretty big lake, pretty busy. Lots of fishermen, lots of water sports going on.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up crossing that entire lake. Took us about an hour and a half to get across it. And next thing I know, we're unloading the little boats, putting all the gear in those tiny boats. And I didn't understand what was going on. I thought we were going to fish.
Yeah.
Well, not yet, apparently. And my wife and the other guy's wife ended up taking the big boat and leaving with it, going back to camp, the main camp there. And we were stuck with two little tiny boats. And little did I know, we were pulling those boats hundreds of yards across land into the forest to another river.
Wow.
So there we go. Yeah, it was crazy. Mosquitoes were eating us alive.
Wow.
So we got to a river, and that's what I found out. What portage means is that we're crossing land, portaging from one river, one lake to another.
To another, and you're you're dragging the boat behind you, more or less, kind of thing.
Right, and that's what the little wheelbarrow tires are for, to make it a little easier for us to,
Gotcha.
It's a wagon. We turned the boats into a wagon, and they were loaded down, boy. Each one had a little 25-horse motor on them.
Wow.
We finally got to a river, got the boats in there, and put the motors on it. Started going up the river very slowly because it was full of grass and cane, and it was shallow. And I'm already kind of like, half the day's gone by, and it's like we haven't fished yet.
That would be
a little
frustrating.
upset here.
Yeah.
Unless
Thought
you
we were
have
coming fishing.
alcoholic beverages, but still, when you expect to be fishing. But the end result, we know what it is, and so
I'm working way too hard
to get to where you're supposed to go.
I'm exerting myself too much. So we got to the river, got all the way down the river a long ways, and it opened up into another whole lake. So I thought, oh, okay, well, this is the lake they must be talking about. So we started crossing that lake. And there was people out there as well on that one. But no, here we go again. Pulled up to the other side of the lake, pulled the boats out, put the wheels on it, and here we go portaging again.
That just
we
seems
did
like
that
a lot of
4
work.
times.
Oh my gosh.
It took all day long till we finally got to the lake that they wanted to get to, and there was absolutely nobody at all at the last 2 lakes we crossed.
Man.
The only thing that really raised my spirits tremendously was on the last river, close to the mouth of going into the last lake that we wanted. There was a big dead tree in the middle of the river. But the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, and never expected in my life to see one, was an American bald eagle.
That's awesome.
Oh, wow. Love
That's
it.
awesome.
Just watching us in the little boat go right by him.
That's awesome.
What are those guys doing?
That made the adventure one thing.
That American bald eagle sitting in in Canada, and he's just like looking over everybody. He's like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just watching. It's like he was watching over us. I mean, it just gave me the chills.
That's awesome.
So there we were. Finally, we're at the lake they want, and it was already late that night or that evening, so we just set up camp. So the next morning, I just started fishing off the bank.
Yeah.
And I was using either a little tiny silver spoon with some little beads on it, and a jig head with a chartreuse grub worm. And that's all I used for the 2 days that we fished on that lake. And 75% of my fishing was just right there off the bank.
Wow.
And it was just one right after the other. No wonder these guys wanted to go over there, because it's not fished very much, I guess. It's way up in the Yukon forest.
Yeah, a lot of wild.
There's no
wild
roads.
trout,
There's no way to get to the
around it.
place.
Yeah.
That truly is
Yeah,
a
it was,
secret fishing spot. And even though you
it
gave
sure
the
was.
location, I doubt people are going to do that much traveling to try to get there. So it's still going to be
Yeah, and that's why there was no one there,
Yeah.
because no one cares to work
venture
that
out
hard
that
to
far.
get there.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. Listening
And
to Robbie's story, I already got winded. I got winded when you portage the first area trying to get to the next lake. I would have already I probably would have passed out
You would have fished the first
Oh,
lake that you got
the-
to. That's
the-
what Tommy would have did.
before we crossed the
You'd
lake.
be like, "There's fish here too."
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. That first portage crossing wasn't that big a deal. I mean, it's like pulling a wagon. It was the real work was trying to get those little boats up the river, because they're so congested with grass and cane, and you had to pull the motors up every 5 minutes and pull the grass out of the props
Oh man,
and
that
everything,
just
just
sounds
so we
like a
could
lot of work.
go down the river again a little bit. I was upset, but in the end, what you saw hanging in that picture is back then was a limit.
Oh wow, okay.
Each one of us caught that limit at least 10 times a day.
Wow.
Whew.
That much. We threw so many fish back in the water, and we ate a lot of them too, because we didn't even take food with us. And now I know why, because we were definitely going to be eating what we caught.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sending in.
And I ended up catching 2 trout as well.
Awesome. Yeah. See, I mean, that picture alone makes me want to go, but then the story just kind of made me go, no, you're too fat for this.
We're not going to travel.
I had no trouble when we were going home doing all that portaging again, because it was all worth it.
Well, see, but in that picture, you look pretty physically fit. I look nowhere like that. So I would have given up, like I said, I would have given up at the thought.
Well, I mean, that was a long time ago, Tommy. I mean,
Still.
let's put you at what, like 20s? You probably wouldn't have. You would have been able to that. Remember, people know that you used to be a professional wrestler,
Yes.
and
But
so
I
you actually
still-
at one point in your life were physically fit.
I was physically fit, but what I lacked was like the oomph.
What was your
so-
professional wrestler name?
Chains.
Okay, Chains. Well, let's.
Why do you bring that?
Let's not interrupt Robbie's podcast, because we enjoyed the fish story, and please continue to send in photos.
Yep.
And if you have any recent photos,
Photios.
that's a new word.
New
It's a
word.
new word. You know,
Welcome
I'm
to
always
the-
curious what word I'm gonna make up.
Welcome
bring
to the
to the
world.
show.
New word.
Photios is gonna be now in the dictionary, the Outsider Tackle Box dictionary.
It's not. Yeah, I was gonna.
We'll
say
have an
it's-
Outsider Tackle Box dictionary and coloring book,
we
so
should
you can contribute.
We should totally make that dictionary for Paul and paint by number for Tommy.
Yes. No, but please continue to share with us, and thank you for being active on our I'm a Outsider Fishing group on Facebook. And you're welcome back on the show anytime.
Anytime, Robbie.
Recent photo or one that you have again that has a good story behind it. I was there with you the entire time. I was on the trick with him, and that's a good fish story.
Yeah, no, that was.
They
a good
all
fish
have
story.
been. We have not had a bad fish story.
I
yet.
already, like I said, I already feel winded by portaging all that way.
Tommy found out a new word, and he's going to
I'm
use
gonna
it.
use it.
He's excited.
I'm just gonna start.
He's
using it
excited
on random
because he
people.
learned a word, and it's portage.
I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna portage this street.
It's French, something like that. French for crossing land. I
See,
guess.
I'm gonna portage the street later.
Okay. And you're no longer going to cross the street.
No, I'm
you're
gonna
going to portage the
portage.
street.
It sounds better.
It sounds sophisticated.
Yeah, which sounds weird coming from me.
That's why it's great. It's a great word. Well, yeah, please, from all of us here at Outsider Tackle Box, thank you, Robbie. We love the fish story. Please share more. We know that you have them.
Yep.
Come back anytime and fish more, tight lines.
Tight lines,
and
buddy. Have a
come
good
back
one.
soon.
Absolutely. Take care, Robbie. Have a good
Very
one.
well, guys. Appreciate it.
Anytime,
You
buddy.
too.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye-bye.